We are live. What is going on, Facebook? My Wealth Our Way family. Excuse me. I've been chatting with my man backstage, so I'm off my game. Let me start fresh from the top. It's your man Charles Tank Harris, the founder, chief visionary officer of the financial literacy platform Wealth Our Way, where our motto is wealth is not only for the wealthy. I want to just say what's up to the entire Wealth Our Way nation, everyone who will be here today live watching us stream on Facebook and on YouTube. And of course, always a special salute to my overnight crew who watches this pre-recorded over the weekend, in between classes, on a lunch break, wherever they can get their 15 minutes of financial literacy in. Today, we are taking a little diversion off the course we were on all week. It's estate planning week, and today we were going to have a special guest on, estate planning attorney, but I'm holding her for Monday because she's busy as hell doing estate planning wrap-ups on Friday and asked me because she pushed to Monday. So, I pivot. I grab my man. I'm gonna let him introduce himself, but this is my guy. This is somebody I work very closely with on a daily basis. I've been seeing all the activity in cryptocurrency this week, and whenever I have a question about cryptocurrency, there's like two people in the world that I'll pick up the phone and call. This is the first phone call right here. So I wanted to make sure that as I tell you guys a little bit about cryptocurrency today, and we're having a webinar later in the summer about all things cryptocurrency. As we start to talk about it, I want to get you guys' minds right and just some literacy on it, because like anything else, I don't care how much money people are making or telling you they're making in cryptocurrency. It is a asset class. It can lose money. It can make money. And truthfully, with the short track record that it has, it's more risky, in my opinion, and more volatile than other asset classes. So you guys know I'm the boring financial planner. I'm the one that tells you conservative over everything else. So regardless of how you approach, I've seen some people comment on here before that they've lost money in different cryptocurrencies. You got to do your research. We're going to tell you some information today, but this information is strictly for informational purposes. So I always have to give this disclaimer because I still have securities licenses. I am not encouraging anyone to buy cryptocurrency. I'm not telling any of you guys to go invest in cryptocurrency. Like every other topic I cover here, this is for informational purposes. We live in the information age. You've heard me say this many times. You can Google everything that I'm saying, but it's different. It's a difference between reading something and having someone try to interpret it for you a little bit. That's all we're doing here. So with no further ado, I'm going to welcome in my man, Chad Copeland. I'm going to let him tell you his background, where he's from, who he is, the company he runs, and then we'll get into the crypto conversation. Big Chad, thanks for coming, baby.
Appreciate you having me, Tank. I apologize for the echo. What's up, everybody? My name is Chad Copeland. I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland. Went to George Washington University studying economics and business administration. Graduated in about 2015. I always joke it was my mother's favorite day. And then probably saddest day, I was working with the government, quit my job and became a professional blackjack player.
That's why we rock together. That's why we cool.
So I did that for about 2.5, 3 years. That's when I got my first introduction to cryptocurrency at that point. And then later transitioned on to doing some project managing with my older brother, Brandon Copeland. He plays for the Atlanta Falcons and also teaches financial literacy at the University of Pennsylvania. Available for the public, shameless plug, at life101.io. Did some project managing on some of the real estate components of his business he was developing, and then finally transitioned fully to working with him as his business manager. So I'm the COO of Cascade Advisory Group. It's a consulting group that we do B2B business with companies pushing mostly financial literacy.
So I appreciate that. So yeah, just, I didn't want to bring it out because here's the thing. I've been working with professional athletes and their families since 1997. And the general public gets so starry-eyed and so starstruck and goosed up on the fact that somebody has a number on their chest and on their back, and they only want to look at the actual athlete. I've been blessed to be able to deal with moms, cousins, brothers, aunties, godparents of these people. And I tell you, there's more jewels and gems in the outer families, from handling the business of the actual player than the player themselves. But your brother's a superstar. I love your brother because not just of his athletic prowess, but what you touched on, him being a Wharton grad, University of Penn grad. He is a 30 under 30 Forbes magazine cat person of the year. So that's love. But you see, Brandon has volunteered to come on the show and will come on the show, but I ain't bring Brandon on first. I brought Chad on because I need a subject matter expert. We can talk about this crypto today. So with that being the case, let's talk about what's happened in cryptocurrency before we talk about recent activity of this week. And I'll touch on a little bit, but I'm gonna shut up and let the expert be the expert. What I want to talk about is, can you explain to the viewing audience, both live now and who will watch it later, what cryptocurrency is, what the top cryptocurrencies are, just give them a general understanding, crypto 101 type of speak.
Yeah, so cryptocurrency, the easiest way to explain it is that it starts with Bitcoin, right? It's just most people know about Bitcoin, and it was the first one created in early January 2009. But the real technology behind the Bitcoin is the blockchain. And what the blockchain is basically a distributed ledger, right? When you really get into the weeds about it, it's basically a block that can be filled up with the ledger of the main use case right now is transactions. And as these transactions come in from global networks, right, that block gets filled up, and then it goes on, once that block is filled up, to the next block. The beauty about it is because it's all on a global network, it is really immutable, or really almost impossible right now with the technology we have to hack, right? Because for someone to hack into it, they would need a supercomputer that basically the transactions that happen on the blockchain, in order for them to get on the blockchain, a computational puzzle has to be created on the back end from miners. Once that computational puzzle gets done, it gets put on the blockchain. In order to hack it, a computer would have to basically do that computational puzzle for the next transaction on the blockchain, and then do all the blockchain transactions in the past. And so it is one of those things that, when you're talking about Bitcoin, which was the first cryptocurrency with its own blockchain, every day that it survives and it gets hacked, technically the network gets stronger. Focusing on cryptocurrencies in general, cryptocurrencies are pretty much built on top of blockchains in some form or capacity. So there's two things, just to understand the language and the lingo of it. There's coins and then there's tokens. Coins are cryptocurrencies with their own blockchain, right? And a great way to understand or view it is like, these coins are somewhat self-sustaining. There's no technical central point of failure as far as the technology goes, right? A token is typically built on top of a blockchain. And so I won't go into Ethereum right now, but Ethereum, it's the second largest coin, is a cryptocurrency that has its own blockchain that a lot of the development is being built on top of. And so cryptocurrencies are basically digital currencies that allow peer-to-peer transactions over an open source network. And, I'm really excited about this space.
I appreciate that. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to Rosetta Stone what Chad said to you cats, break it down, because I know how my audience thinks on certain things. The key thing that I loved about what he said was in the explanation is the peer-to-peer interaction where you can do transactions without a centralized market. And that's one of the things that, let's just be clear, Americans in particular have lost faith in the American banking system, the government, the way it runs the Fed Reserve Bank. And for all of the naysayers who have said cryptocurrency is a fad, it's not going to last, the American government has spent more time and resources over the last 9 months trying to figure out a way to regulate and centralize cryptocurrency usage. And if it wasn't a big deal, they would not be doing that. The other thing is, if you think about where technology is going and accessibility, so when we first started thinking of currency in this world, not this country, people were trading services with one another, bartering services. Then they said, we need a store of value. You guys have heard me use that term before, a store of value, whether it's a wampum bead, whether it's a coin, whether it's gold, whether it's food, something that somebody else can say is worth something. We even had in the history of this world where tulip bulbs were worth something, and people were all gung-ho on tulip bulbs. And I've heard cryptocurrency be compared to tulip bulbs. The difference is when you can look at how broad the acceptance of a store of value will be, that will actually give you confidence in how long or how strong it can survive. Tulips were collected by a very sparse amount of people in a very select section of the globe. Whereas with cryptocurrency, you have people in the most undeveloped of regions. As long as they have access to any form of technology, a phone, a computer, and it doesn't have to be one that they own, they can go into a coffee shop, they can be part of this digital currency. So what we are seeing now, besides for major financial firms, Chase, JP Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon is Goldman Sachs, they are inventing platforms in which they can trade for their clients cryptocurrencies. But this past week and the week before, we've seen two major things that are spurning a lot of the growth that we're seeing, or sparking a lot of the growth that we're seeing. And that is the IPO of Coinbase. And Coinbase is one of the largest platforms on which you can trade cryptocurrency. I'm a novice, so that's where I play at. I actually play on Coinbase Pro, which is their step up because it's cheaper. That's the only reason I'm on there. It's cheaper than Coinbase to trade. But people who know, like Chad, my boy Devlin, they don't even rock on Coinbase. They're on other wallets and other exchanges where you can get a broader, expansive reach of coins and tokens. The American government, the Elon Musks of the world, the Jeff Bezos of the world, are all now finding ways to take advantage of exposure to cryptocurrencies. And this past week, after the IPO of Coinbase last week, this past week, we've had 4 major business venues, all, and you can Google the just Google acceptance of cryptocurrency as payments, and you'll start to see the various companies that are now allowing you to pay for goods and services in cryptocurrency. So, Chad, what do you think the direction that we're genuinely going in the acceptance of cryptocurrency as a medium of exchange?
Yeah, I think for those who've been in it early this time right now with this adoption, it's something we've been looking forward to. And I just want to be clear, there is a difference between awareness and adoption, right? Because I think awareness has shot through the roof, right? And a lot of my conversations with people is it too late, right? And of course I'm biased, but if you look at actual adoption and people putting fiat currency into cryptocurrency, it is still growing at a tamed or rate, right? And so what we're seeing right now is the network effect, right? And that was probably one of the main reasons I got into it, even when I didn't know what I was doing, right? When I first started off, it was just the idea of that if someone else can find it valuable, this peer-to-peer network, right? Fast transactions, right? You can move lump sums of money quickly if you really wanted to, right? If other people saw that valuable, they would, once they're educated on it, they would adapt to it because it is, in my opinion, a better or faster, more innovative financial ecosystem, right? And so what we're seeing today is that network effect happening in real time, right? And so with Bitcoin in particular, because the tokenomics of it, because it's purely decentralized, the problem is it's hard to stop. It's very difficult to stop. And some argue that it is impossible to stop. And when you have that conversation about things being a store of value, I definitely thought adoption would happen over time. I think coronavirus has exacerbated put a lot of stress on our financial system. And so people are looking to park their money in asset classes. And, a lot of times Bitcoin is compared to digital gold. And when you think about a CEO's job or an individual's job or a head of your community or household, your number one job a lot of the time is capital allocation. And when it comes to that, typically gold was a great store of value. The problem is, or the issue is, gold isn't really as liquid as cryptocurrency is. And there's a few other reasons, portability, divisibility, recognizability, scarcity, durability, of why I think cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin specifically, is a more sound money than fiat currency, which is your US dollar, your euro, your yen, and a more sound gold, a store of value.
I appreciate that. So we normally only go 15 minutes, but today we're going to go probably about 18 minutes just to get on one more two gems out of Chad and wrap up. And anybody, I'm always respectful of everybody's time. You guys can dip off, but we'll be around for about 3 more minutes talking about this. What I would say is this. You touched on stores of values and asset classes and where money will become an adoption to. So I've seen many charts. I've been studying this very aggressively for the last 3 months because I have to be on top of information for my audience. And one of the things that I've learned in studying this is that when you compare the overall market capitalization of cryptocurrency to the US stock market, the commercial real estate market, gold, residential real estate market, the adoption so far is maybe a tenth to a eighth of these other larger markets. So there is so much upside for growth just from a standpoint of becoming an acceptable asset class. When you talk about people who have a fiduciary responsibility over money, we're talking about heads of endowments, we're talking about institutional investors, we're talking about people who manage pensions. They have to go under investment policy statements. You guys have heard me talk about investment policy statements. Investment policy statements are slow to change. So they have to add a whole new asset class and deem it acceptable for this money. They are waiting right now. They're waiting to see, because Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are quite volatile. We've seen 80% drops in Bitcoin, and then we've seen it come back. No one responsible for a $3 billion pension wants to be able to tell their investors that an asset class that they're in lost 80%. Once they see a little more stability and adoption, that money is going to move into this asset class. And in any investable asset class, supply and demand is truly what makes the market go. So when you see more purchasing, now here's the difference between, let me drop a jewel on you guys. Let me tell you the difference between, and Chad used the word scarcity. If I run a corporation, I can issue as many shares of stock as I desire. It may dilute existing holders of the stock, but there's no roof to how many shares of stocks I can authorize, it's called. Cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin, they have a finite number that they're saying they're producing and they're stopping. So there is going to be a level of scarcity. So then once they are all produced, which hasn't happened yet, once they're all produced, all you can do is rebuy the existing ones. And if you know anything about finite, like they say about real estate, why do they say real estate will always keep going up? Because they're not making any more. So cryptocurrency is going to be in that same regard, at least on the Bitcoin side. They're not going to make any more. So with that being said, I'm going to let Chad sign off with some jewels. His information is in the chat on Life 101 for him and his brother Brandon's company and educational platform. I do some co-hosting with them on there, so I endorse them 100%. We've done clubhouse rooms together. I've been on their platform. What's that called? We get on what's the app? Telegram. Telegram. I've been on Telegram with them. I'm old, so I forget all my apps and my technologies. But Chad, please sign off for the people and tell them something before you bounce out and give them a good weekend tip.
Yeah, I would say, one, resources, reading the Bitcoin white paper. It's 9 pages, but also learning from smarter people. A resource, The Great Monetary Inflation by Paul Tudor Jones. He wrote that last year in March about the asymmetrical upside of the space. there's a process to finding which coins will be good or not. But I think you have to understand that this market has come, or this asset class has really become on the stage of the geopolitical stage, right? And so for me, a lot of the stuff I'm looking at is not just entirely US based. I'm looking at how Turkey reacts to it, how China reacts to it, how the US is positioning itself, and almost reverse engineering my thought process from there. But definitely do your due diligence, right? There's, I'm sure Tank has told you guys, there's a million ways to make money. So you don't have to be in a rush just to FOMO out or, fear of missing the next wave. We're still early. And so, if you want to get in contact with me, my Instagram tag is below. Reach out to life101.io. And Tank, thanks for having me. If I want to leave anyone with anything, this dude has been on our team and, as a younger cat, just been a sponge soaking up the game. And I appreciate you having me and sharing me with your audience.
Thanks, brother. I can't speak enough as to the acumen of you and your brother and the way you guys have accepted me into your organization and the way we meld minds. I appreciate it. Keep doing what you're doing, spreading financial literacy. That's another thing I want this audience and anyone who ever sees this to realize. You see two brothers on here talking and we collaborate. We don't sit there and say, oh, this piece of the pie is mine and I don't want to talk about it with this person. You got to share information. And whether it's a woman, whether it's someone from the LGBT community, whether it's a Native American, whether it's a white person, whether it's a young person, whether it's an old person, I believe in diversity and inclusion. The only way we succeed in this world is unity, not diversion. So I appreciate you being on, man. I look forward to our next conversation. Wealth Our Way family, y'all have a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday with the estate attorney to answer all the questions about this week's estate lessons. You guys remember, wealth is not only for the wealthy. Have a great weekend.